Hey guys, welcome to the Shermichael Singleton Show. Are young men walking away from the American dream? That's something I wanted to talk to you guys about. I have my laptop in front of me today. That's something that I rarely ever do on the show. But there are some numbers that I want to go over on this particular episode as we talk a little bit about young men and the American dream. So let's just get right into it. So, what if I told you that the greatest threat to America's future isn't coming from outside our borders? And don't get me wrong, guys, we got a whole lot of threats that we have to deal with, that we must deal with China being principally our greatest concern. But what if I told you it's something that's happening in our classrooms, in our homes, and in the minds, to be quite frank, of an entire generation of young men? You probably wouldn't believe me if you're not really following some of these stats. If you are following what's going on, then you would probably say, yes, Shermichael, I have been seeing the decline of young men and we got to address it. What we're finding is more and more young men are walking away from the American dream. They're just walking away from it. They're just saying, I don't want anything to do with this. I'm checking out. They're checking out of college. They're not getting married anymore. Marriage rates have nosedived, and they're not buying homes. Well, hell, homes are too expensive because we have a housing crisis. So that's another issue that's limiting people starting families. And they're not aspiring to the traditional milestones that once really defined adulthood in this country. You would go to college or get a trade. You'd find a beautiful woman. You'd get married, have your first kid, get a home together. Men just aren't really doing that anymore, and at the numbers and the rates that they once were in the past, and it's a problem. Now, some will say it's because they're lazy. And hell, maybe there are some who are lazy. Some will say because they're undisciplined, and there are some who are undisciplined because people will say they're addicted to video games and TikTok. And don't get me wrong, we have a generation, particularly with Gen Zers, who are absolutely addicted to TikTok. Now, I still play video games. A lot of my friends who are doing exceptionally well, they're still playing video games, Call of Duty in particular, because we're gun guys. So it's something we just enjoy to do. So I'm not going to blame it all on video games. Hell, I still go on social media and I'm not addicted to it. So I don't know if we can place all of the blame there. And again, that's not the full picture, at least not in my mind. It's not the full picture at all. The truth is more uncomfortable. And honestly, guys, far more dangerous. I mean, let's just talk facts here. Men now make up just 40% of college students, and that gap continues to grow. 1 in 3 men ages 18 to 29 aren't working or actively looking for work. Marriage rates are falling off the cliff. As I stated, over 60% of young men say they're completely dissatisfied with dating. Again, fewer men are buying homes, starting families, or even building a savings for a rainy day. And we're not talking or looking at a dip. We're really looking at a generational withdrawal that, for me as a younger man, I'm really worried about what happens to the rest of men who are coming behind me. Hell, even men in my own age group as a millennial. Men aren't just falling behind. They're being systemically pushed to the margins, economically, socially, and even spiritually. Economically, we're not making a lot of money anymore. Socially, we're seeing an increase in suicide rates and depression among young men. And economically, we're just not pursuing things that would help build or make money to build families, to sustain the lifestyle of having a family. So the question is, and I've been thinking about this a lot, and I really want to know what you think. So let me know in the comments below. The question is, why is this happening? I can't be the only person who's noticing this. Well, let's take a look at our culture. I mean, for the past 2 decades now, we've witnessed relentless attacks after attacks on traditional masculinity. Strength, well, it's toxic. Ambition, well, it's problematic. Leadership, it's oppressive. I mean, the list goes on and on from those who are on the opposite side of this argument and conversation from me, who will say that men in general need to be radically transformed into something else. Well, the reality is, as far as I'm concerned, that's not masculinity. And I think a lot of these cultural and social changes are what have spurred the negative transgressions of the male decline in our society. And what do you get when you tell an entire generation of boys that their instincts are wrong, their desires are outdated, and their values are conditional? This is the point that I'm trying to make here. You get disengagement, you get nihilism, you get retreat. And this culture, it doesn't challenge men the way it should to be better men, to be upstanding, to be stoic, to be selfless. No, it shames them. And then these same people, particularly those on the left, they act surprised when men just walk away. Look, this is not just cultural, guys. This is economics. Young men, again, are being left behind by policy, by globalization, by a system that outsourced the dignity in name of efficiency and cheaper goods, and artificial intelligence is only going to make that worse. We're not even talking about that, and we need to. Manufacturing jobs gone. And look, with technology, many of them aren't coming back, but there must be something we can do to make men hold, trade, underfunded and stigmatized to become an electrician or a plumber or working on cars or machinery or building things because, no one wants to do that anymore. You got to go get a college degree and wear a nice suit and go work in C-suite. Well, the reality is most of those corporations are letting go thousands and thousands of people as well. We're looking at a bloated and politically captured idea of masculinity that has destroyed manhood and a sense of masculinity for so many men out there. And so for far too long, as far as I am concerned, guys, we're told, young men are told to sit down, shut up, and go get a degree, as I was just saying. But the reality is trade and trade schools, earning a trade in trade schools, that is a powerful thing. Many men have done it and have done exceptionally well, but we've stigmatized it. But I think now they're starting to realize that a degree isn't guaranteeing anything except debt. How many people do you know out there with a college degree in a particular arena, and they're not even working or focused on that anymore? And now they have $50,000 in debt or even more. So they're saying, no thanks. Men are saying, I'm done. And honestly, I can't blame them. I mean, you tell me if I'm wrong here. Can you blame guys who are saying, I'm just stepping away from this? Culture doesn't respect me. Women don't respect me. I'm constantly told I'm wrong. So I'm done. I'm checking out. And into that vacuum, guys, comes a wave of internet voices. Some thoughtful. There are some really powerful guys out there who are talking about spirituality and masculinity and taking care of your family and your responsibilities and doing for others before you do and carrying a heavy burden. That's the role of a man. But then there are also some that just aren't really good, filling the space that fathers, mentors, and institutions used to occupy. And I don't want many of the guys out there going into that corner. I want them to go to voices that are going to encourage them to be strong, to take care of themselves, to prioritize being studious, learning something, constantly pushing yourself to the limits and even beyond. And doing so not just for yourself, but for the greater good. That's the way we used to raise men in our society today. We're not really doing that anymore. Fathers didn't show up. Schools didn't teach discipline. So YouTube, TikTok, and podcasts have become the new mentors. Now, I don't know if that necessarily includes me, but I do know when I talk about issues pertaining to men, it's something that I hold near and dear. It's something that I take with great responsibility because young men are starving for structure. They're starving for direction. They're starving for someone out there to tell them, you matter, guys. You were made to build. You were made to lead. That is the way God created us. And we should do those things. And we can do it in a selfless way. We can do it in a way with great pride. This isn't just a men's issue, though. This is a national issue. This is a family issue. This is an issue for women as well. Because if young men just stop believing in the American dream, then the American dream ceases to exist. Most young men put on the uniform to go into battle. They just do. Most young men take up the heavy burdens to build a society and build the infrastructure of a society because it requires strength. We're just biologically different from our beautiful female counterparts. We have got to, in this society, stop lecturing and start listening. We need institutions that cultivate, not cancel, masculine potential. We need families, churches, and schools, and a whole lot of people in the media to stop pathologizing young men and start challenging them to rise, but listen to what they're saying they need. Now, look, the American dream isn't dead. America is still the number one destination for countries and corporations around the globe to park their money because they believe in what the American spirit and American people have to offer. But if we don't fight for the generation that's walking away from it, then guys, we'll be burying it soon. I want to go over some of the numbers for you. I pulled some of this up, and I want to go over some of these stats. And these numbers really just surprised me. The declining college enrollment of young men. In 2023, men constituted only 44% of college students aged 18 and 24, a decrease from 47% in 2011. And notably, of four-year institutions, male enrollment dropped to 42% from 47% over the same period. And the decline, according to Pew Research Center, is primarily due to fewer young men pursuing higher education. And it's not just higher education. They aren't going to trade school either. I mean, you're looking at reduced labor force participation. The labor force participation rate for men aged 25 to 54 has been on a downward trend since 1953. I wonder why. In 2022, approximately 11.4% of prime age men were not participating in the labor force, up from 5.8% in 1976. That's according to the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco. And then we're seeing a decline in marriage rates, which I mentioned. I mean, the data here, according to the Institute for Family Studies, only 23% of 25-year-old men have ever been married, compared to 75% who were married in 1967. We're not moving forward. And this represents a significant decline in marriage rates among young men over the past several decades. And then again, you look at the economic disadvantages. The economy has shifted, and that shift has disproportionately impacted and affected working class men because manufacturing is no longer here in this country. And we have, again, stigmatized getting a trade, going to trade school because it doesn't look as fancy as getting a college degree, which, again, most of the time it doesn't mean any damn thing. So you have disadvantaged men without degrees or without a skill, leading to economic disenfranchisement. And so you have men who are disenfranchised and disengaged, and they're dislocated from the overall economy because we've shifted our economy to a place where you almost have to have a degree to do well, versus saying having a degree is an option, where also having a trade brings with it the same competitiveness and economic advantages of a 4-year or 6-year degree if you get a master's degree or an advanced degree like a law degree. And this is one I thought was interesting. Increased unpartnered living. The share of men aged 25 to 54 who are unpartnered increased from 29% in 1990 to 39% in 2019. This trend indicates a growing number of men living without a spouse or partner. Again, this is according to Pew Research. So these statistics that I just cited showcases the multifaceted notion of the challenges, guys, that we have. And again, I'm worried about this because society really does rely and depend on healthy men. When you have families, you can't have families do well. You can't have a structure in society, the discipline in society that children need as they become adults themselves. You can't have any of those things that are necessary for a healthy, long society with longevity that can strive for success, whether that's success with the family unit, economic success, a technological evolutions and development. You need young children who have been taught by their parents to study so that they can earn the intellectual skills to build this new frontier that we're headed towards with technology. So men are fundamentally important. And my hope to the young men out there, I would say continue to follow voices that are going to empower you to be your best self. We got a lot of issues here, guys. We have a spiritual deficiency and crisis in this country with young men where we're walking away from morality. I think that's why depression is increasing and more young men are killing themselves because they don't have a moral or ethical compass that faith typically gives, that one subscribes to, and they're following faith. I happen to be a Christian on this end, but whether you're Christian, Muslim, or Jew, I would say 3 of those Abrahamic faiths do indeed teach us to strive for moral and ethical striving. We're walking away from that as a society. We're teaching our women that they can do it all on their own. You don't need a man. You can be independent. You can go have your own kid and raise the kid by yourself. That's a phenomenon now that's expanding. When in the world have we gotten to such a place where we're destroying the nuclear family despite all these evidence we have, psychological, economics, etc., that shows children need a strong, cohesive family unit to do well. That society needs that to do well. It's a building block. Men are walking away from that. Granted, our military enrollment has increased a little bit, but we've seen that go down and down and down because young men don't want to join the military. They have no interest anymore. They don't feel the fire, the desire to defend freedoms the way they used to. And can you blame them? Who would want to fight for something when they're constantly being told you're worthless, you're invaluable, you don't mean anything, you're toxic, everything that is about you naturally that you feel is an instinct of yours is all wrong. You got to change it. It's the weaponization and the feminization of men that we're seeing occur, and nobody's speaking up for it. Well, I'm going to speak up for it. We cannot allow this to happen to young men. We cannot allow feminists and those on the extreme end of the liberal side, typically progressivism, to redefine what it means to be a man. If we do so, I promise you, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to ultimately regret it, because as much as I love women, and I think women are amazing, I love my wife, there are distinct differences between my wife and between myself. But when we come together, oh my God, we make something amazing. And that's the way that God ordained it, in my opinion. And so there's a reason why when men and women are together, they do incredible things. Men will go to war and die on the battlefield to protect their wives and their offspring. Men will build incredible nations because of the inspiration from their wives to create a safe society for their children. Men will do amazing things when they have the support of women and when they have the support of society. Why are we walking away from that? And the notion that women can't succeed unless we tear down men is a farce. It's a false dichotomy. Yes, women can do incredible things while also not tearing down men, while supporting their men, while encouraging their men to be involved, to be engaged. But that's not what we're seeing, because there are too many people in our country today, ladies and gentlemen, who want to see the destruction of masculinity. And the destruction of masculinity will be the destruction of every single value that we hold near and dear in this country. They say, oh, the patriarchy. I hear that nonsense so much. I'm so tired of hearing it. I'm not saying that men should abuse women. That's the opposite of what I'm saying here. A good man values a woman, cherishes a woman. A good man recognizes one of the greatest evolutions in the masculine journey is to find a wife. And what's even better than that is to build a family with that wife. And a good man will be willing to do anything, including giving their lives, sacrificing themselves for that wife and that child or children to continue on if he had to. And so a good man doesn't destroy his family. A good man builds up his family. A good man doesn't take away from his wife. A good man supports his wife, even in her own ambitions. And they build together. They learn together. They cry together. They go over hurdles and humps together. That's the type of masculinity that I'm talking about, that traditional masculinity, where when I was a boy, I was always taught to open the door for women. To this day, no matter where I'm at in public, I will hold the door for a woman before I walk through it. For my wife, I open the door before I get in the car. For my wife, when we go home, I tell her, you do not get out of the car until I open the door, because if something happens, I want that car to be a safety space for her while I do the best I can to defend her and my child. That's the type of masculinity that we need to go back to, this robust masculinity of good values, of faith, of moral striving, of stoicism, of men who are willing to carry the burden for their wives and their communities because they're trying to build something and stand for something greater than them that they hope will continue to exist long after they're gone. That's the type of masculinity that we want. That's the type of masculinity that I firmly believe in. It's the kind of masculinity that was of the great generation. That shouldn't be a bygone era. Those values are timeless, ladies and gentlemen. And if we destroy them because we're falling into the trap of destroying masculinity, calling it toxic and constantly talking about the patriarchy, then I promise you, this society will no longer be what made it so great. It will be worse. That's not good for me. That's not good for you. I'd like to know what you think about this topic of young men checking out, saying enough is enough. If you don't want to respect me, if you don't value me, then I'm done. Let me know in the comment section what you think. I'm sure Michael Singleton, this has been another episode of my show. I want to hear from the young men. I want to hear from the women who really care about young men. Let me know, are we headed in the wrong direction? And what do you think we need to do to upend this destructive notion and the destructive values that's starting to permeate our society that says masculinity is wrong, because it is not. Thanks for watching. Take care, everybody, and I'll see you on the next one.